Well, I just wanted to stop by and say hello to everyone. And I just wanted to say thank you. Y'all are making a huge, huge difference. And you know what? Look, there are a lot of depressing things happening, but let me tell you something that the media ain't telling you. We're winning. We are winning. And it's because of what you're doing. Did any of y'all happen to go in Dallas to the Organizing for America protests at our office?
I did.
I would have been there.
Thank you. So the Obama groups decided to protest us, and thanks to y'all's hard work, we had 3 times as many counter-protesters as theirs. You know, somehow they brought a bunch of New Yorkers and Chicago folks into Texas and said they're going to turn Texas blue. Now, they may have discovered that's going to prove a bigger challenge than they anticipated. I will say, actually, my favorite quote on that is one that Governor Perry gave to the Wall Street Journal, where he said, "The University of Texas will sooner change its colors to maroon and white than Texas will turn blue." I just wanted to say thank you guys for everything you're doing. It's, let me give you an illustration of how we're winning. Let's take the guns issue. A month ago in Washington, D.C., guns was a done deal. President was out there every day, pounding on it, taking grieving moms and dads who tragically lost their babies, and you know, treating them like political props. And I got to tell you, in Washington, the entire sentiment was, this can't be stopped. This is a freight train, the momentum's with it, get out of the way. I mean, that was the entire conventional wisdom. And about 4 weeks ago, Rand Paul and Mike Lee and I sent a very short letter to Harry Reid. And we just said we intend to filibuster any legislation that undermines the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Now, the timing of that letter was important. It was sent on the Friday before a 2-week recess, which meant every senator was going home to his or her states. And you had 2 weeks where that letter went out there, and this is where y'all made the difference. Because what happened in state after state after state is once that letter was out there, senators would go to their home states, they'd show up at a town hall, and men and women from their state would stand up and say, "Hey, why aren't you standing up for the Second Amendment? What's wrong with you? If these guys are fighting, what are you doing?" Now, I got to tell you, there are few things elected officials like less than getting heat from their constituents. And we had 2 weeks for the grassroots to get mobilized. Look, when we signed that letter, we understood to turn around this train, we needed a force larger than any group of senators in Washington. We needed the American people to get engaged. And that 2 week, you started seeing the heat turn up and up and up and up. We ended up getting 16 senators to join us on the letter. So it went from 3 to 16. And then you fast forward a little more. The first vote on the filibuster, we got 31 senators. Now at that point, all of the reporters said, "Okay, you guys have lost." And that shows what imbeciles you were. In fact, the Wall Street Journal wrote 2 op-eds bashing Rand and Mike and me for being imbeciles for fighting on this. Didn't we understand? And yet, you go forward to a week ago, when the votes came on the floor of the Senate. Every single proposal in President Obama's gun control agenda that would have undermined the Second Amendment, every single one of them was voted down on the floor of the Senate. I got to tell you, the look of shock from the senior Democrats, they were convinced they had won. And I got to tell you also, I don't know that there is an issue that has generated more heat internally in the Republican conference. We've had probably 5 or 6 lunches with a bunch of Republican senators standing up and looking at Rand and Mike and me and yelling at us at the top of their lungs. I mean, really upset. And they said, look, why did you do this? But as a result of what you did, when I go home, my constituents are yelling at me that I got to stand on principle. I'm really not making that up. And I don't even bother to argue with them. I just sort of let them yell and say, look, you know, vote your conscience. But that, look, there are a lot of people that don't like to be held accountable. But here was their argument. They said, listen, before you did this, the politics of it were great. The Dems were the bad guys, the Republicans were the good guys. Now we all look like a bunch of squishes. It's like, well, there is an alternative. You could just not be a bunch of squishes. Now that fight, by the way, is not over. Harry Reid, I think, will make another push, so we're not done. But what was critical in turning it around was the involvement of the American people. And that was, by the way, an integral part of the planning, is we understood, look, how do you get something bad passed in Washington? You do it fast. You do it under the cover of night. You do it when no one can look at it. And you force it through. What they do not want is scrutiny. And what y'all have the ability to do, we are in a different environment. You know, 30 years ago, you had ABC, NBC, CBS. They determined what was news and what wasn't. I mean, what y'all are able to do is focus the attention of the American people. And so I'm here. I don't have a speech to give. I'm just here to say thank you, because you guys are making a difference. And what's happening in Washington is we're starting to see Republicans stand up and fight. And success begets success. If we stand up once, we'll stand up again, and again, and again, and again. And the reason people are standing up is because they're hearing and feeling the heat from you. So I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.